Hey, good evening. I'm Bruce Walters. I'm a certified business advisor here with the Ohio Small Business Development Center at Columbus State Community College. Thanks for joining us for this installment in our Business Clinic series. Today's clinic will examine capability statements. If you're attending live and you have questions during the webinar, you may ask those questions using our chat feature, and I'll pose those questions to our guest speaker at an appropriate time. Our guest today is Dorinda Byers. Dorinda is the Associate Director with the Procurement Technical Assistance Center, sometimes referred to as PTAC, for Central Ohio. Dorinda holds a bachelor's degree from Ohio State University and a master's degree from Muskingum University. In addition, she has more than 20 years of experience in business outreach, sales, and workforce development from various roles in the Manufacturing Extension Partnership at Zane State College and EZG Manufacturing. Dorinda, thanks for taking the time to speak with us this evening.
Bruce, thank you so much for your partnership. You and Mike and your entire team do a wonderful job, and we're just so glad to have you all as part of our team and our referral network to be able to get those businesses over who need additional support. You and your team do such a great job, so thanks for the opportunity to be here. And thanks to all of our attendees for coming this evening. We know some of you may have had a long day, so Bruce and I really appreciate you all being here. We're going to hopefully have a really worthwhile workshop on, as Bruce said, capability statements. I want to start off with a joke to hopefully lighten the mood a little for everybody. I was driving with my young twin grandsons when their mother called. As we chatted over the car's Bluetooth speaker, one of the boys yelled out from the back, "Hey, Mom, guess who this is? Is it me or Luke?" After a slight pause, the boy's mother remarked, "And he's the smart one." So just a little joke for all of us to liven up the evening. We're going to talk about capability statements this evening. As Bruce mentioned, I am with Ohio University's Procurement Technical Assistance Center. We have several offices around the state. We serve 62 of 88 counties, including 18 of those around the Central Ohio area. And I have 2 direct reports that work with me on my team serving that Central Ohio area. Why might your company want to consider a capability statement in getting into government contracting? Well, I think this slide tells you a lot. Government contracting, particularly at the federal level, can be a very big business. Businesses of all types sell to the government. As you see there, manufacturing. So you could be making a product. You could be providing a service such as consulting or IT. You see over on the right-hand side of the slide, the size of the market and the return on investment for those government contracts. What we do at PTAC, it's our job to help businesses who want to get into government contracting at all levels, whether that's federal, state, or local. We provide various types of training like we're doing this evening in partnership with Bruce and the Columbus State team. We also work quite a bit with the SBA and put on joint webinars with them. And we've also worked with, for example, some chambers of commerce, putting out various types of training to try to help businesses understand what's involved with government contracting. We're kind of like the eHarmony matchmakers of government contracting, and our services are available at no cost. Some of the services that we provide include things like our bid match service. What that means is your company can sign up to have government bids that are relevant to your business emailed to you every day. That can be a huge value. I was just talking to a company the other day who had been searching out on SAM and out on the web for those contracting opportunities, and he had no idea there was a free bid match service available. We also help companies with their capability statements, which is what we're going to talk about tonight. And we also help quite often with registrations for things like woman-owned small business, veteran-owned small business, or SAM registration, just to name a few services that we offer. This slide shows you a few other services that we offer. Those also include things like helping review bids and proposals. We can't write those for businesses, but we can review your draft and give you feedback on it. We also do events like the Matchmaker, where companies can come and actually meet government buyers. We help with things like once you get a government contract, then what? We've been helping a client with some wage information, helping him to make sure his business is compliant with things like prevailing wage. A little about OU's PTAC. As I mentioned, 62 of 88 counties are served by our PTAC. And I think something important for you to know is last year we had almost 1,100 active clients and they received about $1 billion in government contracts over that 1-year time period. So we're very pleased with the results that our clients have seen from government contracting. This map shows you there's opportunity all across the state in government contracting. It shows some of the various congressional districts and the awards received. And you'll notice that Central Ohio is especially strong, particularly around the Franklin County area. Now to our topic at hand. What is a capability statement? Well, obviously you all are familiar with the concept of having a resume. That is a document that you use to sell yourself to a potential employer. A capability statement is very similar to a resume in that it's a one-page document. Where it's a little different is you're going to be putting some content there to sell your business to the government. So you're going to put down some things about your expertise, and you're going to include things like core competencies, past performance, corporate data, and contact information. And we'll get into each one of those in a little bit more depth. Why might you want to have a capability statement? Well, Bruce and I were talking about this a little bit before everyone joined us, and the primary purpose of the capability statement is marketing. Sales is the lifeblood of any business. You have to be having sales and opportunities coming into your business. If you don't have a capability statement, you don't have a way to communicate some of your value to those potential customers and to be doing that outreach to those customers to say, hi, I'm Dorinda. I offer these products and services, and I'd like to do business with you. Government agencies and prime contractors are going to request a capability statement when you go to meet with them. Another way you can use your capability statement is to introduce yourself. Various government agencies have what's called a small and disadvantaged business unit. We often recommend to our clients that they use their capability statement and reach out to those small and disadvantaged business unit contracting officers to introduce their business and say, hey, I'd like to do business with your agency. It's a great way to do some of that marketing, outreach, and sales to government agencies. Often bids and proposals will require a capability statement. There's also something called sources sought, where the government is looking for businesses to provide a particular service or product. And the way that you respond to those is your capability statement is one part of that package. And then you're also going to talk a little more about some other specific qualifications of your business. Also, you're going to be able to set yourself apart from the competition. And when you're attending things like trade shows, once we get back to those a little more, or even if you're doing a virtual matchmaker like we did last year, that capability statement can be used on a screen share just like we're doing now. And you can run through that quickly with the potential agency client that you're meeting with. And you can also use it to just send out like we talked about. And obviously, if you're at a trade show, you can have that printed out and have that right available at your booth. The basics of a capability statement. We talked a little before about how a capability statement is your first impression, similar to a resume. So we want it to be really, really good and to make the best possible impression. Some of the mistakes that we see on capability statements, things like poor language skills, misspelled words, for example. I just had a client that sent his capability statement over and he had competencies misspelled on there. So I was glad that he asked us to review that, because that's one of the things we will do at PTAC is review your capability statement and offer information on how you can improve it. Past performance. We're going to talk a lot about past performance. One of the key elements of a capability statement is that past performance. Who have you done business with? What level of business did you do with them in terms of dollars? And what's the contact information for the person that you did that work with, as well as a small description of that work. Past performance is something the government likes to see. And not only is it used on a capability statement, but often it will be required as part of a bid. Just as an example, I was recently helping a client who was actually bidding a project with a community college, and they were trying to get this work, obviously. And within that bid, it was required for them to provide 5 references. And those references had to have email, phone. Then they also had to have a description of the project that was done, what the dollar value was, and what the dates of that were. And it couldn't go back any farther than the last 5 years. So past performance is critical if you want to do business with the government, and it is definitely an element that's going to be included on your capability statement. A question we often get is, well, what if I don't have any experience with the government? It's okay to use corporate experience that you've had and as you're getting started. So you can use that corporate experience as your past performance. And another suggestion we often have to companies is, if you don't have government contracting experience yet, get out there and explore being a subcontractor to get your feet wet and to start learning the ropes a little bit. And then you can put that subcontracting past performance experience on your capability statement as well. Another mistake that we commonly see is too many core capabilities. I was recently working with a business that, brace yourself, had 105 core capabilities listed on their capability statement. And I immediately said to them, wow, 105 is just way too many core competencies that a business can do and do effectively. We really need to hone this down to no more than 10. So it was quite a job to get them there, but we finally did. On the other hand, you don't want to have too few core capabilities. I was just working with a business today who basically said they have one NAICS code that is their core capability. And I said, well, that's a little bit too narrow, and I don't think that really describes all of the services that you offer. So we kind of went through some brainstorming as to how they could add some additional core capabilities to their business. Differentiators, we're going to talk about those. Those are some key elements that make your business different from someone else. What makes your business different and better than someone else who's out there? We want to be specific about that. A bland document with no pictures. I just got one of these from a client last Friday. It was literally nothing but text. And I told him, this isn't attractive to look at. It's very difficult to read. You want to be using bullets, and you want to have some pictures on there to break that up and make it more visually interesting and appealing for that person who's reading it. And also, so they will want to pick it up. If you're actually at a trade show and you've got that sitting there on your table, you want it to be visually appealing so they'll pick it up. And again, we're making a first impression here. Government and primes may make a decision about whether or not to talk to us after quickly reviewing that capability statement. So let's make a great impression with that and get them interested in talking to us. The goal is to get them thinking we have a service or a product that they ought to want to buy, and we're the right place to buy it. The format, we've talked about this. One page is best. I often see people who want to have 2 to 3 pages. We don't recommend that. We have some really great templates and examples that if you're a PTAC client, we can share with you. And we also have a specific template with instructions that tells you how to put this thing together. But one page is critical. We want it to be something that people can quickly skim and they can understand and get the key points, and then we're going to be able to talk to them. The goal is to get them to talk further to us and establish a dialogue. The goal isn't to put every single thing about our business down on the capability statement. I mentioned this a moment ago. We definitely want to use bullets. It breaks up that text and makes it much, much simpler to follow and much simpler to read. You may want to have several capability statements. Well, why is that? Well, let's say my firm does business with the U.S. Department of Education, and then I also do business with Homeland Security. The needs of the Department of Education are probably going to be pretty different than those of Homeland Security. If I have different formats of my capability statement, I can tailor it to the various agencies or clients that I'm talking to at the time, rather than having a one-size-fits-all document. We touched on this a few moments ago, but we want it to be visually interesting. We want to use some graphics and color. We don't want to go crazy. We don't want to have, orange and let's say purple and green all on the same document, for example, but we want to use some color and we want to use some graphics, and we do recommend good professional pictures. Those are awesome too. Again, you want to be careful about being professional. I was recently working with a healthcare software company who had some really great experience and really great past performance. And she was just looking to kind of take things to the next level with the government. She had a little cartoon character with a doctor's coat on her capability statement. And I told her, that's not the right kind of graphic. It basically screams juvenile and doesn't project the right image for your business. She got that replaced, and she was actually using the capability statement once we had it tuned up. And I'm pleased to say she's bidding on a project right now that we think she has a pretty good shot at getting. And that capability statement was what caught the attention of that potential contracting officer. But I don't think it would have caught that attention with the little cartoon character with the doctor's coat on. That wasn't projecting the right image. We want to include our company's brand and logo. I often see clients come to us and they'll just have their company name listed at the top, no logo. You want to have your company's logo on there because it's a great way to catch attention. It's another great way to use a graphic in a professional manner on your capability statement and to catch someone's eye. Of course, if we're back attending in-person events, which I know some are right now, we want to have good quality paper. And we also want to consider maybe using dividers or boxes of some sort to break up the text. And again, if you become a PTAC client, I've got a couple really great examples of some clients that have really used some boxes and some nice shading to break up sections. We also recommend converting it to a PDF with a great file name if you're going to be sending it to people. Cybersecurity is such a huge concern these days that many clients are not able to open, what they consider suspicious documents. So the other key is the file name, and that's where the file name needs to be descriptive and be very clear that, Susie's Smith's Eggs, if that's her company, capability statement, something like that, to where the person opening it knows exactly what it is. Some of our content that we want to put on. Now we're going to talk about that in a little more depth. Core competencies. We first want to create a short introductory statement. I like to call this kind of our company overview. What does our company do best? What are some skills and technologies we have? And what do we do the best with exceptional results? We might want to include our mission statement here. We also might want to talk about some agencies that we have worked with and put that in there. But those core competencies should be the things that you do best. Yesterday I was working with a client and it was things like IT project management, system implementations. You want to be really clear about what it is that your core competencies are. If you provide a product, for example, widgets, that type of thing. Past performance. We did touch on this earlier, but we're going to talk about it again because it's very, very important. This is something that if you're going to get into government contracting, I just want to emphasize it will not be something that you will just need for your capability statement. You will need this when you go to bid on projects. I have rarely seen any of the clients that I work with, I don't think I ever have yet, submit a bid where past performance of some sort isn't required. We recommend that you get this past performance well before you need it. And that's where the capability statement comes in handy. You're going to need it for the capability statement. Go ahead and while you're at it, just start a file of your past performance. You want to list previous and current clients that you might have. And you can include commercial, as I mentioned earlier, government and subcontracting work all. So just because your business may not have government experience yet, that's okay. You can include commercial and subcontracting opportunities that you may have done with your business. Provide contact information. As I mentioned earlier, this is critical. The government does often like to call references. The client that I mentioned earlier that was working on the project and bidding it for the community college, every one of those references, so to speak, that were listed for past performance was called. So you want to make sure the phone, email, title, etc. is accurate and make sure the person is still there. If they've moved companies, that's okay. You can explain how you worked with them at a previous place and still use them as your contact. You also want to include a very brief description of the work that you did for that particular client. What was the time frame? What was the dollar value? Obviously, it's not going to be possible to list all of your past performance. So what we like to recommend is, back to what we talked about earlier, if you're targeting a specific agency, try to make the list of your past performance be targeted to that agency. So again, if I'm going to be working for the Department of Education, I might want to talk about a project that I've had with the West Virginia Community and Technical College system, for example, because that's education related. If I'm going to be working with the Department of Homeland Security and targeting my capability statement to them, I might want to talk about a cybersecurity project because that's something that I've done. So you want to prioritize and list past performance by the agency that you're talking with, or by the magnitude of the project that you have had and by the diversity of the type of project that you've had. If you're not targeting to a specific agency and you're just creating a general capability statement, that's what I like to recommend is what are some of the bigger projects you've had? What are some of the smaller projects that you've had? What are projects that are, quite frankly, those that are more like ones you'd like to get more of, and list those as your past performance. Additional past performance information. Once you start to get a track record, you're going to want to, as we just talked about, prioritize. How do we prioritize? We prioritize by, if you have worked for that agency previously, you definitely want to include that past performance. You want to consider related agencies that you may have worked for and include those. Other government entities that you have worked with. Federal, state, and local are all okay to list. Commercial contracts can also be listed. I think it's important to note that in the government contracting world, what you do is public record. So with past performance, when you're targeting that for your capability statement, an agency can actually contact other people, even if they're not listed, because they can look up in various databases whether you have done business with other agencies, and they can call them as well. So they're not limited to just talk to whoever you list for past performance, but what you do with the government is in fact public record, so they can look up who you've worked for before in many cases. Differentiators. How is your company different from competitors? This is something else that I see people really struggle with. These are some ideas of things you may want to list. What are some of the unique features and benefits of the products and services you offer? If you're a manufacturer, what kind of production capacity do you have? If you're a manufacturer, are you ISO certified? If you're not, what is your quality process? What kinds of project management techniques, for example, do you use if you provide a service? What are some of the awards perhaps that you have received with your firm? Are you doing things like green initiatives that might make your firm a little different? Where do you actually work with your firm? And what types of training and education does your staff have? So those are a few examples of things you might want to consider for differentiators for your company. If you have a certification, that can be a differentiator. So for example, if you have a, let's say, woman-owned small business certification, you definitely want to list that because that's something else that can make your business different from others. Again, you want to try to focus on as much as you can the agency that you're trying to target. Are there specific agency needs that they might be looking for that you can target your differentiators to? And you also want to think about how you're offering a solution to an agency's particular needs, challenges, or upcoming contracts. Again, one of the things we can help you with at PTAC is market research. A lot of information is readily available to the general public. So we are often able to see when there might be an upcoming contract, for example, or when a source's SOP might be released, etc. We're able to look up some of that information, especially at the federal level. What differentiators are not? They're not generic and they're not static. They can change and evolve. They're also not one type fits all, and they're not just generic things like quality people, 100 years of experience, best in class. We want to really be specific about what it is that our business does better than others. And again, you can often use some of maybe what you have developed for your website or other marketing efforts that you have put together in the corporate world and just tailor that to government markets. Differentiators that you may not want to use. These are just some examples. We don't want to boast. We don't want to talk about vague statements. I see those a lot though. Things like we're trustworthy. We offer the best possible service to our clients. Always. We also don't need to use very long words. We're trying to keep this at one page and make it very readable and succinct. Company data is something else we want to include on our capability statement. What does that mean? That means our DUNS code, those certifications that I mentioned earlier, number of employees, contact information. We often see people list a generic contact, info@columbusstate.com rather than Bruce Walters at columbussstate.com. We recommend having a specific point of contact, a direct phone number to that person, and also an email to that person. This is also a great place to include your website. Some websites that you might want to get familiar with if you're going to work with the government, not just for your capability statement, but for other things. The government uses something called NAICS codes, North American Industrial Classification System. There are NAICS codes available whether your business provides a product or a service. You're going to want to get familiar with those NAICS codes because you're going to need those if you're going to work with the government, because that's how the government tends to segment and list a lot of their opportunities. And you're going to want to list the NAICS codes that you like to do business in your capability statement. The state of Ohio uses a different system, UNSPSC. So if you want to work with state government, particularly in Ohio, you're going to need to include the UNSPSC codes. A CAGE code. CAGE codes are assigned once you get registered in the SAM system. If your company is going to do business with the federal government, you must be registered in SAM, and that's something else that we can help you with at PTAC. Your DUNS number is something else you'll want to list on your capability statement. A DUNS number is free. You just have to call this toll-free number to get a DUNS number. You will also need a DUNS number before you register in SAM. And again, we recommend that that DUNS number be listed on your capability statement. There are, as we mentioned earlier, some socioeconomic certifications that you may want to look at, and some other certifications for ownership like service disabled veteran-owned business, woman-owned small business that you may want to earn for your business. So we also recommend that you take a look at those, and if you'd like for your business to qualify, those are an entirely separate process, but we can help with those as well at PTAC. If your business would happen to have a GSA schedule, many of you probably don't, but some of our clients do if they've been working with the government, we also recommend that you list those. How you use your capability statement. We touched a little on this. This can be used not only for government agencies, like I mentioned earlier, the small and disadvantaged business unit offices within government agencies, especially at the federal government, you can use it to market there. But you can also use this to market with prime contractors. Places like Battelle, for example, are looking for small businesses because they do a lot of work with the government. So they have contracting goals that they also must meet to work with small businesses, to work with a diverse supplier base. So you can use it in marketing to folks like Battelle, for example, AEP, for example, Boeing, for example. Those are a few examples of large companies that, because they do so much work with the government, they have supplier diversity goals to meet as well. We don't recommend mass emails. We recommend that those be very professional and those be targeted to a specific person. Again, as I mentioned earlier with the government, a lot of this information is public record. So you can actually find the person that you may want to target your capability statement to and directly send that to them. We talked earlier about the importance of making sure that it is in a PDF format. That is critical. We also want to look for those events we can be using our capability statement at. Networking opportunities, matchmaker events, special vendor days. Marketing mistakes. We touched on number one already. Always have a specific individual contact person on the front of that capability statement. Something generic. We don't recommend you using generic things, and we don't recommend including things like catalogs, slide decks, inserts, etc. Just too much information. Keep it to one page. No clear understanding of the agency's mission, needs, etc. If you are targeting a specific agency, and I know many of you are probably just getting started, so you're probably going to have one capability statement to get started. That's okay. As you get more sophisticated with this, though, you're going to want to target to the specific agency that you're looking to do business with. And we can help you, again, with some of that market research. We don't want to share any stories of woe. We all have those, but we don't want to do that. We don't want to expect instant results. We like to tell people that if you're going to think about getting into government contracting, plan to take 18 to 24 months. It's a very competitive space, and it's going to take time and it's going to take effort to be successful in government contracting. We also recommend that you spend your time targeting the agencies that are most likely to buy your services. So we don't recommend blankly sending it out. You know, if you're a company who provides consulting services around grant evaluation, it probably doesn't make much sense for you to target ODOT, for example. You probably want to target the Ohio Department of Education. So the point is, we want to think about who are the agencies, and again, PTAC and Bruce can help you with this. Bruce and I both can help, especially as a PTAC, but you want to try to market and target who it is that's going to be most likely to buy your products or services. In conclusion, we want to identify our audience and plan accordingly. Do a spell check. That's another one we recommend. Become a PTAC client. We can actually help you review that and put that together and provide templates and examples at no cost. And how you might want to engage with us at PTAC. Mike Blythe and myself are still with PTAC. Terrell is no longer there, but we are covering that right now at this point with some of our other team members. All of our clients must sign up via our website. So we need people to sign up as a client, and then you're able to work with us at PTAC. We schedule individual appointments, very similar to the way that Bruce and his team work, and really focus on your individual needs as a client and talk with you to determine what the best course of action for you going forward is going to be. And with that, my presentation is concluded. Does anybody have any questions?
No questions in chat. Does anybody have questions that they did not pose in chat? Going once, twice. Yep, just Melody says thank you. Melody, thanks for joining us.
Absolutely, thank you.
All right, well, Dorinda, thanks so much for taking the time to speak to us and for all the excellent information.
Thank you, Bruce. And I will be getting the slides over to you, Bruce, so we really appreciate the opportunity.
I will get those out to everyone who attended. If you're an SBDC client and would like to contact the Procurement Technical Assistance Center, please let me know, and I'll forward you a link to the PTAC client registration portal. Just a reminder that we have 3 additional programs in our business clinic series at the Small Business Development Center at Columbus State Community College. These clinics cover business entities, insurance, and workers' compensation coverage. If you're interested in any of these programs, do let me know and I'll get that information to you as well. Dorinda, thanks again for being here this evening and sharing your expertise with us.
Thank you, Bruce, and thank you everyone for attending. Have a great evening. Stay cool out there.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.